Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine.
Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis.
Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis. I'm overjoyed today to be joined by Doc Holliday, vocal coach to the stars. He's worked with Britney Spears, Earth, Wind& Fire, as well as Backstreet Boys, everybody in the business. And more importantly, he really helps people protect and take care of the voice that they have and realize it's truly a fine instrument that really needs to be treated delicately. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
I want to look back a little bit and how your whole family was into this whole side of the business, which a lot of people don't know about how important it is.
Well, basically, starting in gospel music and coming from a real strict educational background and a very strong musical background, I was always taught to protect my voice.
Sure.
Always, get that scarf,
Right.
and they would say, get that scarf, don't leave out of here with that scarf.
Right.
It's just hot,
Exactly.
Get that scarf.
Right.
And I had an unfortunate incident that occurred to me. In my early part of my career, I was an artist, and I lost my voice.
Right.
And I was out here in LA, and I was getting ready to get signed, and unfortunately, I couldn't accept that deal, and it was devastating.
Right.
And at that point, I realized I wasn't taking care of my instrument. I went to a gentleman by the name of Dr. Hans van Leyden, ENT. He's passed on now, and he told me, he said, look, you have to take care of your voice. He said, the voice is an instrument. When you sing, it's a physical activity. So right there, when you start dealing with physicality, you look at the voice differently, And I had another opportunity to work with Dr. Sugarman, the ENT doctor, and he taught me about the anatomy of the voice and how the voice actually works. And I base all of my curriculums and everything is based around, it's a holistic approach.
Sure.
There's no quack stuff, it's just really common sense stuff, what you eat, your lifestyle. We all have, in this business, we have crazy lifestyles. And it's about balance.
Sure.
The key is balance. And the key is protecting the voice and realizing that it's a physical activity. I had one time somebody told me, oh, you're just a singer. Singers don't do anything. But without singers, what do we have? We don't have melodies. We don't have a lot of things,
Right.
So yes, I've been doing this for about 25 years now as a professional. And I had some amazing successes. Of late, I worked with Maurice White. He had Parkinson's.
Yes.
And his management team, they said, well, Maurice is not going to let anybody talk to him or teach him. And he said, I want to come back, Doc. I want to do one more album. I want to do one more tour. And I went to management. Management said, well, he's not going to do anything. He's not going to let anybody tell him how to sing again. And I said, well, let's do a vocal analysis, which is what I do for every person that I work with, because I work with professionals, people that are actually working in the business, like Jennifer Lopez, people that have to sing Star Spangled Banner for playoff games or some important event.
Right.
And when you do that, people are panicking because they haven't, first of all, a lot of people haven't learned the fundamentals. A lot of stars haven't learned the fundamentals, and they are operating on sheer talent. I come in, I give real techniques that work, and teach them how to alter their diets, consult to them about their lifestyles, and sleep is the most important thing, I think.
Wow.
And as it relates to the voice, what I find. Because Doc, yourself, when you wake up in the morning, how you have this grog thing,
Right.
The voice is a muscle. You have to warm it up.
Right.
It's just like if you're an athlete, he's not going to go out there and do some crazy moves and injure himself. He has to warm up. Anytime you go to any pro arena, which is what our people play at, we play at stadiums and big arenas like that, you have to work out. We warm them up. It's just like any athlete, and I approach it that way. I remember once I was telling the Backstreet Boys, I think Michael Jordan and those guys were up for the championship. I said, look, you guys are Chicago, and I'm Phil Jackson.
Right.
Okay? I'm your coach, and we're going to win this stuff.
Right.
So basically, that's That's been my approach. It's been a holistic approach, yes.
Sure. So if I take some of those maybe types of mistakes that people may make, it sounds like you said, not warming up, maybe singing early in the morning, getting off a plane early and
Yes.
going and
Yes.
doing a performance and things like that. What are some of the things you've seen that people often mistake or don't realize they need to do to protect their voice?
Well, one of the main things is you got to watch what you eat. Your diet is very important, and rest is significant. And in this business, you know, you're flying in and out of different time zones. You have to have remedies to help yourself. You have to take your vitamins. You have to have a workout regime, and you have to rest. Rest is the most important. I can't stress that enough. Eating, drinking what you drink is very important now. I used to like to drink alcohol. You know, I could take a glass of wine every now and then, but everything has to be balanced, you know, and you have to know that prior to singing, you have to get as much rest as possible and focus in on the techniques that are not damaging. See, the way the voice works is, Dr. Sugarman taught me this, air going across the vocal cords. And that's the main thing I ask every person that comes to me, do you know how the human voice works? If you're a singer and you don't know how the human voice works, right there we have a platform that we have to work on. Right. You know what I mean?
And so what are some of those other tips that you might encourage people to do? You hear all types of things, suck on lemon or drink some hot liquids, especially if it's feeling scratchy and you have had a chance to rest and you've had a chance to warm up and things like that, but it just seems like things aren't quite ready.
Well, we teach a technique that air going across the vocal cords makes that cord work. Once you learn how to warm up, and a person is taught to warm up and you've done all those things, you have to realize you may not be able to sing that day. That's just a reality. And so my thing is, I'm on a preventive mode. You know, like preventive medicine is a preventive mode. And I try not to get my clients into that situation. But if they fall into that situation, there are a few things that you can do, such as you know, get hot steam, go into a steam room, get hot steam compresses around your neck area. And more importantly, if you have phlegm or anything like that, take an expectorant to get the phlegm out of your body.
Sure.
Yeah.
What's one experience, at least if you can share, if you can't share the artist who understand, where you feel like you pulled a rabbit out of a hat, things really didn't seem like they were going to go well, and maybe canceling something really important?
Well, some people were going to do, I can't call the artist's name, they were doing the Super Bowl, Star Spangled Banner for the Super Bowl. And they had been traveling tremendously. And it's like, okay guys, you got to get ready for this. You know, the whole world's going to see it. What are we going to do? Well, he's sick, man. I said, look, here's what we do. We get a few antibiotics to make him, you know, get him in the system to make him feel better, and go into the steam room, expectorate just prior to the performance. And you can't have any segue, because you being a doctor, you know that they're going to revert back after a certain period. You only have a small window. So Star Spangled Banner is what, 2.5 minutes? So we had that 2.5 minutes, and we did all those things. The performance was very successful.
Sure. And the converse, when you tried to give somebody advice and maybe it was smoking or drinking or just too much zipping and zapping, where you felt like, I've tried my best, but it's very hard to get them to change their ways.
Well, I've had people come to me in those situations, and you know, they like consistent smoking. And the smoking, you've heard smokers' voices, right?
Yeah.
And it's a terrible sound. And the person actually got on stage and could not execute. And he came back and said, okay, band, keep playing. The band kept playing. He went back and he said, Doc, give me something. I said, look, I need you to chew ginger. Just chew some ginger right now. And I put some hot water and red pepper. I said, gargle with this. And Dr. Tishner's actually, which burns your mouth out. He did that, he came back, he completed the show. But my thing that I got the most out of, he stopped smoking from that point on. So for me, that's a plus, that's a win.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely. And that ties right into our show, which is called Music and Medicine. When you hear those words, what do they mean to you?
Well, first of all, music is therapy.
Yes.
Therapy relates directly to medicine. So when you have something that's therapeutic, it's also medicinal. you know. And I'm sure you've had many people come on your show and tell you how music affects people. Right. And from a psychological point of view, it makes you feel good. And I've noticed I had my ex-wife has Alzheimer's. She got it early on. And what we've noticed is that when she hears certain types of music, she comes alive.
Yes.
And that was a revelation for me. And so now, what my daughters do for their mother is they play certain types of music to get her in a certain mood. If she's got to go out, like she's got to go out and work out, they turn it up with EDM. Sure, you know, right. If it's time to go to sleep, we have some really soft classical piano going. Right. You know, so in that respect, music is very, very therapeutic, and music and medicine, they're one and the same.
Sure.
They're one and the same.
What's some of the advice you'd give to people who vape? Because that's been increasing in its popularity. We have tremendous concerns about it and what it can do to the voice.
Well, smoking of any kind is damaging to the voice. And vaping, to me, is what I call a silent killer. You know, that's my total thing on that. Need I say any more?
Sure. No, absolutely. We were very concerned even before COVID that we were seeing young people wind up in the ICU and with various respiratory distress symptoms.
Yeah.
We saw many people that got COVID that had vaping underlying, worse.
I'll tell you something that I do, doctor. I will not accept a client that smokes. I don't work with anyone that smokes, especially if you're smoking tobacco. You know, if you smoke marijuana, that's doable to a certain degree, and it's somewhat medicinal. You know, we found that of late, but smoking definitely affects the voice, the vocal cords. The residue gets on the cords, and it creates it prevents the cords from vibrating properly, so that the sound can emit. You know, so any type of smoking can be damaging to the instrument. So if you're smoking tobacco, that's a no-no completely. And if you're doing marijuana, that's minimize that, balance that. I don't recommend it, but I say balance it. And vaping is out of the picture totally, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. Are there any other pearls you'd give for young people? Because we have seen this emergence where a lot of people are expressing their talent, but maybe can't always sing.
Well, you gotta get with a coach. You gotta call me. You gotta call somebody. Sure. You know, like I tell people all the time, I said, look, you don't have to call me, but you need to call someone to help you. You know, because I think if you have any skill set that you're working with, you have to have a basic, solid, fundamental foundation in order to grow. Sure. You know, and I think a solid musical foundation is going to help one.
Sure,
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you heard it here from Dr. Holliday. You definitely need to take care of your voice seriously, especially if you're a singer, and if you're going to be out there long term trying to continue to sing. Your voice is this delicate instrument that's made up, as he said, of very, very fine tissues, and air has to cross it in a very complex manner to allow you to have that vibrato, allow you to have that song. And certainly smoking, vaping really are strongly discouraged. I think that people that do want to take their voice and singing seriously realize that other things that he pointed out are not always obvious, but sleeping, getting enough rest, not overdoing it. And then he has a few little secret tricks and things that he uses and that he has used, and certainly maybe many of you have thought of them as well, that are really natural, and so we like that. So please, if you are singing and take it seriously and feel that you need to have a vocal coach, consider Dr. Holliday or any vocal coach that may be closer to you, because he's here in Los Angeles and has worked with some really wonderful people, but you may be in a different city, and realizing the importance of having professional help is always a good idea and great medicine. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. Welcome to Music and Medicine. I'm your host, Dr. Moshe Lewis.